Welcome back, everybody, to LARPs and Tarps. This week, we're going to be talking to the wonderful Eye Larp, the people that run Eye Larp, I guess. I'm here with Tom.
Hi there.
And then joining us in our multi-million-pound studio, we have Jonny and Kitty, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hello.
Would you like more champagne?
Ooh, thank you very much.
You're spoiling us.
We had some absolute divas on last week who were asking for sparkling water. But no, I'm glad to see the back of them.
Harrogate tap water will have to do.
Absolute nightmare. But yeah, so thank you very much for joining us, guys. Do you maybe want to introduce yourselves? I don't know.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Oh yeah, so basically, me and Jonny manage Eye Larp, which is a assortment of small LARPs that run in the UK throughout the year. For everything from ancient Rome to 1930s, I think, is our most recent one these days, isn't it?
Yeah, 1930s.
And with
Which
cowboys
one
and pirates and all sorts of stuff in between.
1930s was Oasis, right?
Yeah.
Is that the film one?
Yes.
That was the film one, yes.
Yeah, it was a one-shot.
There was a picture from that of... I don't want to say his name because I haven't got his permission to say it on the podcast, but I think he was playing the director. There's a picture of him in like a really bedraggled in a shirt with a gun outstretched from.
He was the cinematographer. Yeah, we do actually have permission from some of our close friends, and he's one of them. So that was Nick. That was he was the cinematographer who had to take over as director for a couple of hours on a Saturday afternoon because the director went to his trailer in a fury that things weren't going to plan, and then while he was in his trailer, all hell broke loose and people started dying. And
God.
It was like, he came back, was like, what is going on? Why is most of the costume department lying on the floor, covered in wounds? What's happening? It was, mate.
It looked insane. I think that picture of Nick just kind of like, I was like, this looks unhinged. Like, what happened? Like,
Roman shield in one hand, tutu in the other.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
Also, we'd like to congratulate you guys for all the wonderful awards you won at the LARP Awards.
It looked like it was a truckload.
There was, I want to say 9.
It was sort of 7.5. Because we're sharing one with Mandala Studios, who designed the Goose.
Goose from the second
Hildegard, our Mayor's Goose. So they collected that one, but we kind of,
You tag alongside.
It was my stupid idea, so
Oh yeah, of course. No, it was incredible to be at the awards and just be like Eye Larp, and then I love how it's been like award-winning sites.
Mate,
Eversley.
we were sort of glad that we weren't there because it would have been quite embarrassing, I think. And by the sounds of it, there wasn't much room to get up and collect things anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was a squeeze.
Shuffling
but
past.
You take up too much table room with all your awards just on there.
But yeah, no, very well deserved because again, I've been to a couple, you've been to one.
Yeah,
the site is amazing, and the stuff you've done is awesome as well.
Can't wait to get back.
Thank you very much.
But I think it'd be really good actually to probably start. You've not always been high flying LARP site owners. How did you guys get like into LARP originally?
So I've been LARPing since I was 16. It was my aunt that got me into it, who is currently the Marcher Egregore now.
Yeah, which was a bit of a shock when we both rolled into the same mission at the same time.
And when I mention this, everybody that knows this person goes, "Oh, no way."
Yeah,
we are related. Yeah.
And then they go,
that's crazy.
Oh, wait, that makes a lot of sense now because she taught him to fight and she is one of the most savage people on that field.
Oh my God. Yeah, because I saw pictures of her before she was March Regular in Dawn.
Yeah.
And then again, kind of turning up and seeing her in the Marcher kit, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I've been LARPing since I was 16.
That was the first Maelstrom, wasn't it?
The
PD event that ran
the first PD Maelstrom event, and then I've been LARPing ever since.
I started in 2013, first year of Empire. Gave it a go, E3 and E4. Brought my little sister along the first time because I was like, this will be a fun bonding experience. Joined the VAR because she was like a musical theatre prodigy basically, and I was like, we'll be able to crack on with this. It'll be lovely. She was 12, I was like 22, and I took her to the academy. I went off to battle because at that point you didn't have to like hang around and sort of make sure the kids were okay. You just dump them there, and
it was a bit of a crash.
And I was like, you'll make friends, it'll be lovely. So I went off to battle, having no idea what I was doing at all, with all like borrowed swords from people who were handing me things in the queue to go through Sentinel Gate. And then about an hour later, the Navarre Egregore comes over holding a child by the arm, going, "Whose child is this? I've found a child," which was my sister Chloe, who had just gone, right, well, I don't want to be here with these other children. I want to see what the fun is over there. And had run through the Sentinel Gate after it was technically closed, and had just had a lovely hour hanging out with some Jotun who just adopted her.
That's so good.
Thank God it wasn't the Druge.
Oh my God! Right? Yeah. Oh well, they probably would have done the same thing. Like, oh, I guess we've just got a child now. Like, she'll be one of us.
Child.
Teach us
some
torturing.
For your way. Your kids are coming to us.
Yeah. Just give her a mask. Excellent. Enjoy yourselves.
Yeah.
Whack some nerds.
Yeah. So went to E4 after that. Didn't really find my feet, I guess, and kind of figured maybe the hobby wasn't for me. I was doing a lot of cosplay and stuff at the time. And so didn't come back in 2014, but then a bunch of my cosplay friends started a Wintermark haul in 2015, and I jumped on there, and I had a few years of Wintermark and started coming to Eye Larp at the same time as that. And
yeah,
that's where I met Jonny.
I was playing and crewing Eye Larp for probably about from the start, really, from their first game, Norseman, that came out, which was a Viking LARP. I went to the very first one. The Josh Smith, the owner of Eye Larp, he had big plans for it, and a lot of what has been built there has basically come off his back, and then slowly but surely we kind of got more involved in the crew side, and then he offered us an opportunity to start doing feasts and food for the events. So we would be crewing, and also then we'd be feeding the crew and playing the players to kind of help him out a bit more. We took over the writing of Buccaneers of the Damned.
That was with a little team, yeah.
That was with a little team.
That was to give him a little bit more time off, and because there was already kind of writing teams for some of them, like helping him. And that was the first one he took a step back from and just sort of handed over to this little group of reprobates, really.
Yeah.
And then, well,
yeah. Well, in 2018, we kind of
we've ended some of our careers in other things, and ended up working. We'd had summer jobs working at an armourer's that made like polyurethane armour and shields for the TV show Vikings.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we did that occasionally.
And we did all the armouring the King.
The Netflix show, yeah.
That was
Netflix movie.
Cool. No.
Chalamet, yeah.
So
that is one of my favourite films.
Pretty much all the extra armour is either sprayed by
painted by me and assembled by Jonny mostly along the line of the plate
with like a couple more people.
That's insane.
That sounds really cool.
That is like my favourite film.
It's good. It's a great film.
Yeah.
But so
there's the moustache helm as well, which Jonny designed, because we had to come up with like different variants of the various pieces that we had of helmets to make the line not just look like it was the same two helmets like on everybody. And so Jonny was going, okay, if I take a piece of this and a piece of this, then I put them together and this kind of works, doesn't it? And it sort of perfectly framed his moustache. And so he went upstairs to the boss and was like, "Moustache helm?" And the guy was like, "Send it." And so at one point it pans across the line and there is a guy who's just got mustache. And luckily they recognised that on the other side, and they were like, "This is definitely for this guy. We know has the greatest mustache on the line." But yeah, we did that for a little bit, but that was sort of a stopgap really, because I'd worked in film and had kind of found my feet with some of the aspects of that, and but I wasn't really sure if I wanted to continue to like climb that sort of ladder and figure out, because once you're on that ladder, it's a pretty intense lifestyle, and I wasn't really sure if that was 100% what I wanted to do, because there's not an awful lot of creative freedom you have on a lot of the jobs, and like we were then offered this kind of weird opportunity at one point, and we thought, well, we'll try it out for a few months, see if it works, and then the catering turned into being given more and more responsibility, and our boss Josh taking more of a step back, and then by about middle of 2019 we're running everything and starting up some of our new projects as well under that as well. So it was pretty intense, wasn't it, for that first
it really was.
year.
It was just weird, like it was so I wouldn't say nepotism, but like it just
It's not.
slowly just kind of like
That's not the right.
no, it's not the right word, is
No,
it?
no.
What's
It's
the
not
right
like
word?
you're related to
No.
our boss.
I occasionally look like him though.
They're both gingers, so
Both
people do
gingers.
think that sounds
Yeah. But yeah, we just slowly just started doing more and more, and then next thing we know, we've now just got Feast Your Eyes was a company declared in 2018.
Yeah, it's come up to its 5th birthday.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
So we were originally just going to do the odd Empire Player event that was going to be a feast event. We've done some really weird ones over the years under that banner, and then like catering for the Eye Larp games. But then this year we had so many of our friends coming up to us and going, "I've got this idea. It's a crazy idea. It may or may not work." And so we kind of figured, well, we've got these weekends that we could potentially put Empire Player events on. We're kind of losing, not interest, but like running out of steam for working in that sandbox of the like PD's, game.
Yeah.
As much as we love it, like sometimes you just come up with ideas that would work better if they were in their own independent kind of world.
Yeah.
And so we were thinking, yeah, you know what, it would be nice to have like not quite so much cognitive power being devoted to constantly writing everything and being able to kind of hand the reins to our mates, with them knowing that we're like, right there behind them, putting all the resources to those crazy ideas.
Maybe this is the time we finally do our Rick and Morty Jerry Jamboree LARP.
Oh God. We're booked until 2028.
Oh no! So we were thinking. I think the question posed was, "What's the worst LARP you can think of?"
Yeah.
And I said Rick and Morty LARP, but I said the way you make it not toxic, so you get rid of all the weirdos, is you make everyone has to be a Jerry.
Oh,
and then Kerrie suggested Jerry Jamboree.
Yeah, because then, like, you've not got your toxic people like, oh yeah, I'm the most intelligent person. Yeah, everyone's a Jerry, and you're all a fucking dweeb.
Yeah.
Look, it was like I said, the question was, what's the worst LARP you could think of?
I want to see a giant Beth costume.
Is it Totally Smurfed? Is that
I don't think Totally Smurfed is the worst laugh. I think Totally Smurfed would be a cracking laugh.
About twice a year, when we're sitting around the fire and it's like 2 a.m., there is a small group of them that keep trying to pitch the idea of Smurf LARP to us. And Jonny is one of the people trying to pitch it.
I really want to I like the idea of Smurf LARP. I think it'd be brilliant. It's a bit like your second breakfast.
It would be potentially the highest kill to player ratio that we'd ever do as well. Because
everyone, all of you are one-hit wonders.
And your name is just dependent on what hat you're wearing currently. Chef Smurf.
What's the bad guy called in
Gargamel? I did a really I went on a mad deep dive about Smurfs, and I was just like, this is doable. It is. It's doable.
I've gone straight.
But yeah, Gargamel. So do you know how the Smurf?
Oh no, I'm not going to go into it. Please not go into Smurf. This is never going to happen.
Tangent.
I refuse.
Oh no, I kind of want it. No, because I was talking to someone about the LARPs, because they were saying again, because I know you've got Legio Nightmare coming up, and someone said to me they just came up to you and went 2 words, Legio, werewolves, and then left.
Yeah,
kind of thing. They were just like, I want to play it.
Yeah,
do something with that.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was
the April Fools is the reason why certain games have come out, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's where Second Breakfast came from, wasn't it?
Well, kind of. That was when I'd broken my hand when I was locked in that shed for 2 weeks. Yeah, but I don't know. Last year for April Fools, I mocked up some Second Breakfast Nightmare and Second Breakfast Vice posters.
Yes,
I would do Second Breakfast.
God, holy shit!
It's just like sunglasses photoshopped onto the various hobbits.
You could do Second Breakfast Nightmare, because if don't put it in like the nice world. Put it in a world where we all know that, like, if you look at Warhammer,
they've got halflings.
The halflings are right next door to the vampire counts. That's all I'm saying. No. And they've got the best unit to kill undead, because they have to do them all the time.
Yeah, but thinking to Warhammer halflings, they're very different to Lord of the Rings halflings. Things might go crazy.
Yeah. The thing is, I've never specified that it's set in, like, a Lord of the Rings adjacent world.
Yeah,
I've had to keep it very vague on litigious purposes.
Of course.
Maybe it is set there.
I would love. I think you wouldn't get most of the same player base, because I think most people go to. We'll talk about second breakfast later, but most people go there for a good vibe. But God, I would go to just be. I mean, because you wouldn't even have to. Like one orc would be terrifying. You know, you're all. Oh my God. Yeah, do it. That's all I'm saying.
There was one goblin last year at second breakfast that there was like a mission out to go in, because the plot of last year's because we ran basically the same game twice with the same plot both times because lockdown had happened since we put the tickets out. We had a lot of interest. We wanted to run it, but we didn't want it to be so enormous that people didn't get that like real personal community feel, you know?
Yeah.
So we did the same game twice with like a lot of the same story beats happening over the course of it. And the second one was a bit bigger because it was a bit warmer
just where the dates were, basically, where the dates fell.
But it was pretty much, you know, we kind of knew what we were getting into the second time around after we'd had a sort of trial run with the first one. And there was a story, basically the plot was that one village had to make a pie and another village had to make a cake in order to present them to the mayor for her birthday party to prove like that they were the better village. And so they had to find, all the linears were getting flour, jam. Like eggs. Like they were all the plot was centered around getting ingredients to make these two baked goods. And so I think the cake lot had to get some strawberry jam. The only person who made the strawberry jam good enough to be put in this cake for the mayor was I think it was like Nanny Thornborough or Nanny Puddlefoot, who was a bit of a cranky old halfling recluse who lived like next to this pond, and if she wasn't happy with a batch of jam, she would just lob it in the pond, and so they had to go down there to try to get some jam off her. But she was also furious because there was something in her pond and she wanted them to find out what it was. And eventually they did a bit of we had a whole setup with
fishing rods
that had like hooks on them, and then we had some people hiding underneath one of the huts, which is on stilts, so there is like a little platform underneath. We had an assortment of crew hidden down there with a big basket of things that they could fish for, like an old boot and some jam, or like, you know, all these different things, like mysterious objects that we'd found in the crew store. And then after a while, they hooked onto something squirming and pulled up a goblin who had been living under the hut for the last like however many years, eating only jam, and wouldn't leave until they gave him more jam. But luckily, when they brought him back to town, they were in the middle of the jam, which was an entirely player-led thing, a jam competition where everybody had brought their own jam, and there was tiny spoons and one of Mr. Green Gorka, one of the players, was feeding everybody jam on little biscuits, and so they just brought a goblin to the jam competition. He was very happy. They sort of just put a hat on him and left him in the pub for a really long time. But it was that sort of game.
Sounds so wholesome.
No, it wasn't. Run one, wholesome, very wholesome. We bring a giant goose. They sing it to sleep. They give it pets. The second run, there's a picture with a noose on it. Where they've tried to like put a noose on it, they've like tried to do all sorts.
I think they were just trying to lasso him, but they had used a noose.
Run one,
the goose.
Run one, a food fight with dwarves. Really wholesome. Run two, they literally pummeled the dwarves so much that the dwarves were outside Vikings being literally hit with fake chairs and being pounded to the ground with fake food. It got a bit vicious. Run two, they were evil. They were evil hobbits. They were evil
halflings in
that was second breakfast nightmare.
It was the crew being like, these are going to be wholesome.
Second breakfast nightmare is you play a dwarf who's just trying to pass through, and these horrible two villages are like Wicker Man style, like weird smiley cultist.
I was already very excited for second breakfast. I am now even more so. I cannot contain my excitement.
We're just going to be there refreshing on the day, trying to get those tickets straight to the Lord of LARP.
No, that sounds amazing. No, because we, very excited for second breakfast.
Yeah.
I think, because I think something that I really like about Eye Larp is, and we've kind of talked about this before when we've done like Hoist and Flying Lead, is that, and I think the way we described it was a game like Empire, which is huge. There is plot there, but you have to
dig for it, like you're a truffle hunter.
Yeah, you've got to seek the plot. Whereas what I really like about Eye Larp is it's like someone comes around with like a platter and like, would you like any plot for you today? And it's really nice. but beyond that as well, and I think you describe it, and I think Tom, you thought this question, like about film sim, like you call it film sim.
Yep.
And it would be fun if you could tell us a bit more about what like Eye Larp's ethos is with regards to rules.
Why you chose it.
Yeah.
Josh basically started it all where he took I think it was German.
It was a German LARP company sort of ethos. He translated it into English, and came up with Film Sim, which is a translation. There's film LARPX, which is another LARP company in the UK. They use another term that's cinema something.
Yeah.
But it's essentially exactly the same concept, which is like react to everything and don't expect the reaction you think you might get. So the idea is that you go into it and you are fully immersed in the world around you. Everything that you can see, as far as we can possibly make it, is part of the world, and everything that happens in it is sort of film rules. Because, like, you know, when you watch a movie, you kind of, there's always a certain amount of tropes and rules that you can kind of understand if you've watched enough movies in that genre. You can kind of you know that the villain, if you don't see the body, they may come back. You know that the hero might be able to have a final stand, even if they've been shot in the chest 3 times with arrows. They might still be able to kill that one last guy and save, you know, the little ones. There's rules, and like, I guess when we're writing our games and when Josh was writing his games, like, that's always in our mind that people kind of, it's like narrative causality, you know, it's the story will carry you along, and if you know what genre you're in, you can kind of follow that without really needing that to be written down anywhere specifically. But the idea of Film Sim is that it's basically just like our crew or our stunt crew for you. You know, they're not here to just like hit you as many times as possible and knock you to the ground and kill your character off. They're here to give you an epic moment where you feel like you're the hero of that story. And our town NPCs are our extras and our side characters and the people who move the story along and like bring those story hooks to you.
Yeah. It's always been the ethos of all of Eversley, like, because Eversley isn't just a LARP site; it's also an airsoft site. It is a community. There's a community site at the end of the day, and it follows on from all the things that are underneath the banner of Eye Larp, Film Sim, etc. It's all about bringing that kind of, when you're stood there and you're looking around, you're like, I could be in a film right now.
Yeah.
And you definitely serve that. Like, there's, I think the advantage of you've got of it being a smaller site is that the difference of when I was at Hoist to compared to Flying Lead, it was the same town. It was identical, but it just felt completely different. Like, just like with little changes here and there, I was like, holy shit, this doesn't feel like the island in the Caribbean that I was at, 2 months ago. This feels now like I'm in like somewhere in kind of like the States. I think that kind of feeds that you do get moments like that where you're like, I feel very immersed in the film.
I do remember going to Flying Lead Nightmare. It was my first time, and just driving to this horror game and looking at your sides like, Morgan, we're at a horror game in the middle of the woods. Yep. It's going dark soon. I hate horror.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die.
It's the site plays a lot into it for the Film Sim ethos, because it is a set. It's been used as a set. Like, we've had films being filmed there and stuff, because it has that ability to be transformed into it. And as long as the people that come along understand, like, when we do the rules and do the talk at the start, and they all get the same feeling, and everybody works together, player and crew, it's the easiest ways of running games. Yes, we don't have many rules. You're meant to be the heroes of movies, you know. How many times have we watched... Or villains. How many times have you watched a film where you're just like, oh, he should have died then, or...
Yeah.
Why haven't they picked up that item? You know, that kind of vibe, you know.
It did take me a while to get the grasp. Oh my God, I've been hit. And I can just choose to live for if it's kind of believable.
Yeah.
Not taken off my head.
Yeah.
And it did take me about 10 minutes to click. It's like, I love this now. I'd have to count hit points.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's it. Like,
it used to be a notorious thing at our old pirate game, Buccaneers, that the first shot would always hit somebody's hat,
Yeah.
and then they'd just be complaining that their hat had a
hole in it and stuff like this,
rather than any headshot.
But yeah, there is this kind of, and also with the fact that it is small games. I say small games.
I mean, yes, it's small compared to...
If you don't react and people see you not react to stuff, then they will react for you. Like, I've seen it before where someone got hit like multiple times and they were still standing, and then someone playing a healer would be like, "You've been hit so much, like it must be adrenaline
must be like
holding you up. Yeah. Like, let me patch you up."
Sit yourself down because the shock will set in soon, and you look pretty,
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like a policing situation where people are like, hit counting for other people. It's more that they're going, right, this person's not fully getting into the spirit of it, and how can I help them do that, and how can I give them more role play rather than go and complain about them to the refs. You know what I mean? Like it's a sort of a community ideal of like, right, we're all in this together, and by taking those hits and by giving game to those healers, then they're in giving more game to everybody.
Because we all go to these weekends. Even me and Kitty go to these weekends, even though like we are running them. We're running them to have fun, and like so other people can have fun, and everybody is there. Crew, player, everyone is there for this weekend to be fun for everyone.
You sound so serious when you're saying that.
I know.
Everybody better have some fun.
Everybody better have some fun.
But it's, I think, I again, it's as having seen kind of how it, because it is, I mean, it's just very fun. I mean, even when we were having, so again, to go back to Hoist, when there was this kind of fever pitch of like between the Santiana and the Chariot of just this absolute rage, there was like 2 moments like in the middle of it all where I was speaking to members of that crew. You kind of like, oh, just out of character, you would know this, or by the way, this has happened, but obviously you wouldn't know it. And there would just be this moment of, oh, you piece of shit. Just like it's funny, we're having a fun time, just kind of like a smile on your face, like, you little scamps. And then you go, because everyone's having like a laugh, like it's funny.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of like in those, you feel like you're in a film and you feel like you're acting. But I think what I did appreciate about Eye Larp is everyone has that kind of ethos of just checking in.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, hey, we're good. Like, this isn't like, I'm not actually very upset with you. This is all fine. We're all.
Yeah.
I think now twice me and the new captain of the Santiana, their player, have had characters that have had a problem with each other at 2 separate events. And I said to him after the event, one day we'll get along. But
yeah, I get that.
No, I have to say, going to Flying Lead Nightmare at like Empire, I feel like I'm a person in costume. Flying Lead Nightmare, I felt like I became the character within minutes. Just everyone's costume and team spirit really drags you in. And everyone seems to work a lot better together, not divided by nations or difference of opinion. Everyone's just working as a team to have the best possible time.
Yeah, and that's not to say that there's not like high drama and like real emotional moments. But like, I guess we're really trying to cultivate like a supportive environment for people to be able to experience those without feeling like all eyes are on them and they're being silly or whatever, because we're all just playing silly buggers in the woods. Like that's what we're doing as a group.
I think that's the thing. I think it's because everyone's so I guess this is like a lot of LARP. Everyone's so bought into the role play and the idea that you're doing stuff that's, again, bloody Flying Lead Nightmare, I was screaming an exorcism at someone walking towards me. That's just one normal man shouting at another normal man in a costume.
Yeah.
But at the time,
didn't feel like it though, did it?
Not at all. Nope. I think one of the most amazing moments of like kind of like everything I've done, just have these kind of moments where you're screaming at someone walking towards you, or when I saw the gluttony like crying after they've been exercised. I'm like, there's like these real like, like this is just, and you look back and it's only when you think about it like now, you're like, that was just being silly in the woods, but it didn't feel like that even afterwards. Like, I'm still like,
yeah.
But you've kind of touched on it a little bit. We're talking about your sketching up LARPs, but it'd be good to know what your process is for making LARPs. Like, because I know how many LARPs do you actually have?
That's a great question. I don't know, genuinely, off the top of my head at the moment. We've had 6 Feast Your Eyes events this year, or we'll have this year, 2 of which were Empire Player events. For Eye Larp, Oh gosh, I don't want to do what I did last time on. We were on the LARP Noobs podcast, and we got our phones up, and then killed the audio for the rest of the thing as soon as they've asked us that question, and so it's just like.
Well, it's like
I would say we've got about 9.
Yeah, okay. So how do you go about? So I know it's quite funny. You spoke about before you guys took over. There was Norsemen and Buccaneers of the Damned, which is your.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Viking and Pirate LARP.
Yeah.
You're doing them again, but I know there's differences.
Yeah.
What's the process? Hey guys, as artists, what's your process?
So basically, I think a lot of it is what are we feeling inspired by at the moment? What have we got a real passion for? And because I think it's got to be when inspiration hits. You can't.
Yeah.
Especially if it's going to be something that's going to be a campaign kind of game where we've set from the start. Okay, this is going to have 6 or 9 sessions over the course of 2-3 years. We want to make sure that is something that we can continue to put effort and energy into, and not feel like it's something that's writer's block is hitting real hard, and we need to try and tease out some kind of plot that makes sense. If we start off and it's potentially a struggle, it's always going to be worse. So for some of our games, like the Oasis was my kind of baby last year. It was the 1930s film set LARP where you basically a director had managed to secure rights to this natural phenomenon that only popped up every 129 years, where an island would spring out of the Mediterranean with a forest already atop it, because that's the set we've got to work with. And rather than and this was like an established phenomenon within the world where every 129 years this would pop up, and it was established that throughout history certain people had seen it and certain people had documented it, but obviously that it was only in certain time periods that this thing had been observed, and it had been there for around a month and then dropped down again, sometimes quicker, sometimes longer. And so when I sort of came up with the idea, it was sort of a half-baked idea. I started putting together some of the possible promotional material of it, just to sort of see what I was really pitching it to myself more than anything else. And then as I thought about it more, I get the odd shower thought, or because we live 4 hours away from Eversley, and so Thursdays and Sundays we always spend 4 hours in the car every week. So we kind of have that time to cogitate, and especially if Johnny's fallen asleep for 2 hours of that drive, I have like sleeping time, Johnny sleeping time for me to think about stuff and have a playlist on and kind of go through these kind of things. But for that, it was very much like, what story beats do I want to include in this? And how can I shape this story to include what I think would be cool moments and like the things that people would want to talk about after the game? How do I sort of reverse engineer that story into something that makes sense logically and can feel as if you're actually able to pull threads of it and come to the same conclusion as I am, I guess, from that first point of view. And so that was just basically a love letter to The Mummy and King Kong and that kind of like filmmaking of that era. And what was the other? Shadow of the Vampire, which I love, with Eddie Izzard and like John Malkovich. And it's just a wonderful movie about making a movie, and it's essentially Nosferatu, but from the point of view of the film crew who are making it, and Nosferatu is real, and they just have to, like, he's the best actor for the job because he's legit, and so we just have to keep feeding him members of the cast until we get the shot, and that was the kind of the sort of mental, and I guess it was also kind of cathartic for myself because I worked in costume for years, and my last job was was working on a massive Hollywood blockbuster for a couple of months at the start of its production, with a costume designer who was kind of worse than the demonic creature that I wrote for Oasis in some ways. It was very much sort of Devil Wears Prada kind of situation, and kind of really putting that to bed in my head, I think, by... It is basically writing what you know, isn't it? And if what you know is that it was all a costume designer and she's actually a 2,000-year-old ancient being who's been bringing people to this island to sacrifice them for eternal life, then, but it was just I'm a big history fan. I love deep diving into history and finding things that might work and then introducing that into the setting, because so much of it is like, I don't know how Jonny writes Five Kingdoms because it's a fantasy setting. Therefore, nothing is established. There's no auto wiki of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas
you can't kind of go like, oh well, what period is it? What's appropriate? It's just like anything could be the case.
Yeah, exactly. You can't guarantee anything is actually part of the setting. Whereas I like to be able to go, right, okay, if somebody really wants to do a deep dive into this game, then I can just list off some Wikipedia pages that might be able to help them. And if they want to be a specialist at some really specific thing from that time period, then they can fall down that Wikipedia rabbit hole, as I often do. And it's automatic world building, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I know with a lot of it, it's just what have you got an interest in? What have you got some experience to be able to write? How can you put that into a game so that other people can interact with it in such a way that they get something out of it that isn't necessarily your point of view? But I don't know. It's a kind of a big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge question. I mean, it's kind of like again, I don't want anywhere near that scale, but I've been doing a lot of world building for like a D&D campaign. It's the same thing where you're kind of like, but again, that's a lot easier because I feel like I can actually deliver that information in the middle of the game, so you can stop and be like, Morgan, what's this and how does this work? We're in a LARP. You're like, I've got to deliver this naturally. Like how?
Pause. Exhibition dump.
Yeah. It's time for the game runners to go come in and give you a big exposition dump and a document for you to read.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Occasionally.
No. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Very true.
There's some people who just love that sort of deep dive where they're in a game and they're like, right, I would like a nice sit down of half an hour with a really difficult puzzle, and then I will be contributing to the game by figuring out this cipher, or and then I will have the information and I will be able to give that to my friends who are running around and shooting things.
Yeah, actually,
I will have helped and feel part of the gang, and like that's great. That's what I am when I'm in a game. I like to search through the Anvil library for one very small piece of information, or like.
I was just going to say to you is that because that's exactly what I think with the Anvil library is just this kind of again you look at Empire and you're like, okay, so cool, so we've got the wiki. Oh yeah, I've read the wiki, and then you realize
the wiki has something like more words than the King John Bible or something.
Yeah, because then you look at the wiki and you're like, oh, there's the wiki, and then there's the deep wiki, which you have to go through hyperlinks to get to.
Yeah, and
then on top of that, there's also the publications at the library.
Yeah,
and I'm like, holy, there is so much lore here. Or like, what, and it's like you say, it's you can have. I mean, I have had like fun. Kind of diving around looking at special stuff, and I mean we also had at Flying Lead, we had the mysteries around that. So there was periods where we were filtering through sugar-coated paper to try and find out.
Vicky.
I can understand why they used the sugar, but at the same time, like I found those bits of paper the other day, and I was like, they're usable for Fortins, and they're now like crispy. Like,
they're like baked.
I was like a crispy cookie.
I was like, you could have just, whoever it was, great idea. However, you could have just pretended to salt it, and they'd be like, "These have been salted." Cool. Well,
yeah.
Funny.
I mean, I guess of all the white powders to use, sugar was probably the least awful.
Yeah.
They wanted flour at first, but we were saying, like, because our SFX guy was just like, you don't realize how flammable flour is. If we have a smoke machine malfunction anywhere near it, it will just set it off like it's a line of like, what is it called in the movies where you have like dynamite in a big thing and then they have a big line? Yeah, but like, is it a particular thing or is it literally just a line of gunpowder?
Line of gunpowder.
It's literally that. It would be that kind of situation where, oh no,
Jesus, oh my god,
all the way along. Like, it's just, I don't know. We've got
next time you have an open fire, just throw some flour into it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice trivia fact. I've learned something today.
Windmills often explode for this reason.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
See, that's what people come here for in reality.
Yeah. Weird facts.
Is the weird fact.
Strange facts.
That's all I do. Weird facts.
So that's how you write LARPs.
Yeah, that's how I write LARP. I find a weird fact and I reverse engineer a game so that I can tell everybody that one weird fact.
Yeah.
And they come out of it and they go, wow, I've learned so much. I can't believe I've learned that weird fact.
The way I write mine is, what would I like to do? Shoot stuff. Cool.
Yeah. So they say you're never meant to pick a favorite child, but do you have a favorite LARP you've made so far, or a passion project?
Dang.
Flying Lead.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say Flying Lead, Smoke and Brass.
That was our flagship, wasn't it?
I don't know. I just
it's been the basis of so much of what else we've done.
Yeah.
That we wouldn't have the company we have now if it wasn't for Flying Lad. Which, like, Flying Lad was originally a pre-us, like, Eye Larp game, which was with airsoft guns.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it was airsoft and blank firing, and basically
blank firing after dark, right?
Yeah, you could do it throughout the day, but the premise basically, it started to drop off players, and then there was like a discussion: should it stay airsoft? Should it go full blank? And all this kind of stuff came up, and then nothing really came of it. So it kind of disappeared for probably about 2 years, I want to say. And then I basically went to Josh. I'm going to reboot Flying Lead full blank firing.
And he was really keen for that, but he was like, right, I'm going to reboot it as well at the same time, and we'll do sort of two sides of the same coin. He'll do an airsoft game. Jonny will do a blank firing game, and that's what was Smoke and Brass, because that was supposed to be like the tag, the tagline to differentiate it from the other variety. I can't remember what the tagline he was going to do was, because it was 2020 he was going to launch that, and so it fell by the wayside. And it's now County Wars, which is his airsoft cowboy game. But like Jonny was there for a weekend when it was running, and he was like, "It's so quiet. It's weird.
It's so weird because you don't have any of the bangs going off. You don't have like." So yeah.
Well, I think Nightmare was the first time you ever fired a blank and pretty much deafened us.
It was so funny because I'd fired cap guns at Hoist, which was a hilarious experience because caps are dodgy sometimes. I was like, it was like going, and I was like, no, for trying to get it to go. And then I had then we had this blank firing gun. And I was like, right, we bought these really shitty cap guns off Amazon, and they were shitty. Like once I put the caps in, I was like, no, these aren't going to work. Yeah.
We had gun envy.
We had because when we got there, all I could hear was bang, bang, bang. And I was like, dude, I feel this is okay. I'm gonna have to get a piece. And I had recently become unemployed, and I was still like looking at the shiny gun shop. I was like, oh, should I? I'd brought my flintlock with me to give to Tom to use because your character was like
antiquated.
Inherited his flintlocks from his father and taken them out. But I had I was like, right, I bought a tiny little gun that fired the blanks, and I said to the guy, he says, do you want short or long? And I went, what's the difference? He goes, long ones are louder. I went, oh, obviously I'll have the long ones. Insane. Now, it was then I realized why people fire guns like that.
Yeah.
Right? At arm's length. Yeah. Not like that. Because I was like, pulled it back, fired it. Tom was like there. It was like there. And then we both flew away wincing. It was just, I was like,
dude.
I understood. I was like, what's happened? I then understood. And then at several points, guns were I should have got earplugs. I did not realize how loud you can get. I had a spark fly into my mouth at one point because they're side venting, but someone like fired their gun like there was oh my god.
That was something Jonny was really trying to crack down on recently.
I've cracked down on that quite heavily. I've rewritten the brief, so then there's more that safety inside of it and stuff.
Because when we first started it, like pretty much everybody who had like guns, like they were bringing their like cap. We had a lot of caps that first event. A lot of people had people were testing things that they bought online, and over time people have got more and more of the big fancy heavy
rifles.
And so as we've gone on, there's just been more firepower on the field, I guess. And there's been more of those sort of incidents, and so it's something that Jonny.
It's the smell, the smell of smoke and brass is
It's great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Like after a gunfight, and you just see all the smoke just like hovering.
It looks so good.
And it's like,
we don't need to have H and Dave on SFX standby with smoke machines and their boxes of tricks, because the players are doing it themselves, and that's just always amazing to see.
I have always been fairly anti-gun. Never understood it. I was like, no, never would touch them. Don't get the point. I fire one blank firing pistol, and I get it.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not a gun person at all.
No.
Pretty much all the games I run are pre-Napoleonic, because I have a curse.
Kitty's curse.
Where if Jonny will load a gun, test fire it, it's fine. Hand it to me, every single one won't work. I'll be like, I don't understand it. I hand it back to him. He's like, I test fire, and it goes off. It's fine. It's as soon as it gets into my hand, it just does not work.
Have you seen Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency?
Yeah, a little bit of it. Yeah,
I've seen a little bit,
it,
but there's the woman in it who like knows she won't die.
Yes,
and she like shoots herself in the head. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
It's
very much.
It's very much that.
Very much that.
So like flintlock pistols, absolutely fine. I think it's just I'm a pirate at heart.
Yeah,
like, that's just how it is.
Well.
I don't know. Trying to
Pembrokeshire, yeah.
Pembrokeshire wrecker.
Trying to load one of those flintlocks at the gates of hell in the pitch black was very difficult at flying. I was like, I'm going to die.
Victoria and Albert, wasn't it?
Yeah, Victoria and Albert, my beloveds. They will be returning for Flying Lead this year.
Oh, incredible.
Not Flying Lead. Oh, yeah, it is.
I did get to do a line at Smoke and Brass as my marshal at the weekend where I was like, every single time to Juno Valley, I always feel like I'm 4 steps away from the gates of hell.
Oh.
And everyone's just like, oh, you son of
a... Can I give you kudos to all the effort you put in with the pyrotechnics and whatnot? Marching from the invisible bridge that you had to put in to the gates of hell was the most immersed I've ever been. Seeing those fires coming over the hills about 5 minutes out were the creme de la creme.
That's all H.
That's all. That's H and the Gorgon photography team, our SFX team.
H is sort of X-Film. We've got the benefit of a ton of our sort of backstage team all being X-Film or current film crew who just like drop by and do what they love doing just for a bit of a laugh on the weekends. And have you ever seen Hot Fuzz?
Oh, I love Hot Fuzz.
Yeah. So you know the bit where they're in the, I think it's like a supermarket, and one of the Andys gets covered in tomato sauce
because all the bolognaise are popping.
It's just bolognese. H did all the pyro for that as part of like many things he's done.
Yeah,
but like we've seen a picture of him like before he cut his hair off, so he's got like shoulder length like curls, and he's just like standing on top of the like crouching like a little gremlin
on top of the aisles
like, with 2 detonators like
oh, that's so cool. I love it.
Yeah,
he's just a mad one, isn't he?
He's like the whole lot, the team of them, because now it's him and a couple of others that are part of the Gorgon photography team that are our SFX as well now. They're so well talented on it, and also so safe as well, like always talking to me and talking to Kitty about this is how we can do it safely. I go up to him and have an idea and be like, look, I want to do the gates of hell. H just basically went, give me a week, came back with this idea. It was like, how about this and this, and I was like, perfect, let's do it.
It was phenomenal. I think again, that whole game it's like a nightmare. Like looking back, I'm like, I can't. There's so much to be said about the kind of, I think it's something that the noobs say a lot, LARP noobs talk about, is like the cinema of your mind, kind of looking back.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's so much of it that I don't have to cinema of my mind.
No.
Because so much of it was just actually terrifying in its like seeing Gluttony run towards me with a mouthful of fake blood pouring out of it, wanting to eat me.
Yeah.
That is actually just, there's so many funny pictures of crew who knew that was about to happen, shitting themselves just because and it was like because like you said, the special effects and the like how much everyone puts into it, you're just genuinely terrified. It was really good.
Definitely the most fun episodes I've had recording, and probably my favorite ones we've done. Just the amount we had to talk about and the stuff, it was just so fun. It was great.
But yeah, very excited to see what Vampires is.
Oh, I'm on it. Like me, Isaac, and Massimo Roof, who are part of the writing team for Smoke and Brass, when we were writing last episode, Smoke and Brass, and of course Flying Lead, when we realised it was vampires, we'd be like doing something, and then we'll be like, oh, this event, next Nightmare, we can do this. I'm just like, yeah, we didn't focus on this, but you're absolutely right, I'm going to note that down, kind of thing, because we just like always frothing about what's next.
We always come up with like the epilogues in the middle of other things, don't we, and have to just like reverse engineer stuff from there.
Do you realise the next episode's just going to end up like a big episode of What We Do in the Shadows?
Mate,
I wish.
No, so much.
I've got ideas. We've got ideas. It's going to be I want to say more, but I'm not going to because I want this one to be like, it's vampires, but What type?
Yeah,
Who knows?
absolutely.
Yeah. I was kind of my intention for Eye Larp again. I'm in employment now, but just before I started going to Eye Larps, I just lost my job.
Yeah.
And both times I was intending to crew, and I ended up playing. And I'm so glad I did. And there's so many times like, oh, it'd be really fun to crew that, but I'm like, oh, but I just love playing it. Like I can't imagine not having done the player side of
for sure.
either of those events.
The envy I would feel.
Yeah, no, I'd just be. Obviously, by the sounds of it, crewing actually is amazing, and I would love to do it. But especially because it's like 5 hours for us to like get down there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Amazing experience.
One question which Morgan insisted we put on is: tell us more about the goose.
Yes, tell us about the goose.
The goose.
Hildegard.
Who has come out so many times recently? I keep seeing pictures of this goose.
It's because so it came out for
every game this year.
It came out for Wild Hunt.
Return to Spider's Rest, which was the Varushkin player event we ran right at the start of the year.
Did it come out for that?
It did, yeah, briefly. Yeah, I had to get Quinn into it.
So as I understand it, the goose came out because it's a hobbit is 3 foot tall, and so is
Hobbit is
3'6"
halfling
is
hobbit
the sort of average height.
Average height is the same as a goose.
I think it's specifically a Canada goose, but we just went with it.
Yeah.
And so I went to, it was over lockdown, and we went, right, we still have this budget that is ready to go for this game. If we leave it in our account, who knows where it'll go? Because, it was a weird time in our lives.
Lockdown was weird.
And we were like, right, we need to spend this budget so that it is already in the process of being something cool. And we'd sort of come up with the idea that like a goose might be funny as for like a little bit, just a funny little bit. And then when I was talking to Logs, who's the Goblin Workshop, she's one of the traders. She's a member of our community, and she was already going to be set up to play the mayor. And we're thinking, okay, it'd be quite funny if she had a pet goose who comes out at a certain point. And essentially then our friend Persephone has a one-woman Untitled Goose Game LARP where she is just the goose. And the goose is set loose and then causes problems for everybody. And she was fantastic. Both of them were fantastic in those roles.
Yeah.
So I put it to Mandala Studios, who do a lot of the big monster work for Empire and all the other big LARP companies. And I got a message back from Leah saying, Wookie has decided to cancel all other work. He will only be working on the goose from now on.
That's beautiful.
And then he went, we found a way of possibly making the wings flap, but it will be another couple of £100. Is that okay? And I was like, I can't possibly take any kind of creative control away from this. Like, you crack on. Whatever you need to do to make this goose as good as possible, please. And we saw him a couple of weeks ago when we dropped off a lot of the monster kit that we were borrowing at the start of the year. And I said, right, I have an idea. So part of the problem we had when Persephone was out of the goose costume was that there was a big hole where she had been standing, where it had sort of been pulled up, because it was like almost like a pantomime situation where it was like she stepped into it and pulled it up so it was sitting around her waist, and then she had a long like puppet neck on one of those like grabbing toy things, so the beak can grab things.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
There's a picture of it with her having a knife in its mouth.
Yeah, at one point they armed the goose.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's got a knife.
Was that run 2?
That was, I don't know. Actually.
I don't know.
It was. It happened at both of them.
Most likely run 2.
Yeah,
because that was the chaotic one.
Yeah. But I did say to Wiki, what would be great is if we had a piece that could go into the back that would then close that up, so that it would be one continuous prop then, and somebody could stand next to it and, like it is a puppet, then just use the head while it's in situ. And he was like, oh, when I made it, I cut out a piece of foam that was exactly that size and threw it away because I hadn't had that idea. So there's sort of improvement. It was a prototype goose, and so if you suddenly see geese at other LARP situations that aren't our goose, then you just know that that's like version 2.0, and our goose is the OG Hildegard.
And then this goose, who was at the Hobbit Lab. Am I to understand that Eye Larp are responsible for dire geese existing within the Empire?
Oh
no, I don't think so.
I don't think we're the only reason,
but we're the only people who fizz repped it so far.
Yeah, we have the fizz rep.
Yeah.
I'd love the Marchers to have a giant goose.
So at the Wild Hunt?
It was a Wild Hunt, yeah.
Wild Hunt, this goose came in, and it was, it's a goose. And then it just impaled someone immediately in the chest.
Yeah.
And someone was just like, oh my God!
Yeah. Stu, the writer of that one, who was one of our associate writers, he had to message Matt Pennington and ask, so, dire geese, what would be the stats? And Matt had to write that from scratch because I don't think it existed before that.
Yeah.
I just the idea of being like, oh look, a goose, and then impale.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was a mage that got hit as well, so they were down on the floor instant.
Just imagine explaining that to your mates when you go onto the field as your new character's brother or whatever.
I got killed by a fucking goose.
Yeah. An evil dire goose should have venom as well as impale at the same time.
Yeah, venom and impale.
Oh my God. Have you heard the Longest John song, Moby Duck? Yeah.
So, this is why the goose needs to be at hoist. So we
in
can
this
all
setting, it's a duck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's always there. It's always ready to go. But sometimes it's definitely not coming out.
Yeah.
It's like the Flying Lead Nightmare 2. We had an alien, like the alien mother sort of thing that was essentially just a very yonic sort of you know that Pokemon that's like an oyster. What was it?
Yeah, I spoke to the person who fizz rapped that.
Yeah.
It sounded like a time.
Yeah.
I think the goose is our new raptor though, because when we first got the raptors in Eye Larp,
the two velociraptors
Josh went mad. They were in every game.
He got them for Jurassica, which was like a Land That Time Forgot kind of 3-part game, and like a Victorian one. And they're specifically ordered for those. And then about 3 weeks before that game,
he put them in hoist.
I could put hoist. I could put them in bucks. Oh yeah, the pirates could fight some raptors. It'd be a laugh. And then they killed 11 players.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my God.
It's
it's very much one of those things that when it's just a new toy, isn't it though? Like it's when you download you get a new game, you're like, I'll play this game for a bit, and then you're like, I'll play this next new game a bit for ages. It's just a new toy that everybody wants to play in.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, can I use the goose? Like, can I use the goose?
Every single guest writer we've had this year have gone, we could get the goose out though. Go on.
I've got at least 17 crew members that want to try to be the goose.
It would be really fun to be the goose.
Yeah, it is fun.
At the Portents, we had a halfling paladin ride it, so we made some legs, so it looked like Knight was riding it.
Yeah, that was my job.
So good.
It looked really good as well because they were fully armoured legs, so they were kind of articulated with boots on the ends. But,
and then they did. The players realised the goose was available, so then they did they used their fear to basically do a ritual where they could make the imagery of the goose. So then we had to get a player into the goose costume to fake being to pretend to be the paladin with the goose.
To persuade the players to do something. Yeah,
I was just like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
The Portents was a game that was written by our friend Nick, who's in the league in Empire.
Do you want to explain portents a little?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the idea is basically you are the baddies in a fantasy setting. You are from a sort of pseudo-communist evil kingdom, and your society is entirely powered by fear that is harnessed from going through portals and harnessing that fear from other people.
Think along the lines of Monster Inc.
That's what I was thinking. Yep.
And Dungeon Keeper. So you are the monsters that go through the portal to then get the fear, then take it back, and then you basically you do it through that way. It's an amazing game. Nick has done a brilliant job. The players all hands down to him, all played brilliantly. The crew reacted amazingly.
It was just a real fun
It was
time.
Just a really silly fun game. And
it could have got a bit edgelord, but instead it went camp. and that was perfect. You know.
Oh, that does sound perfect.
I saw a bunch of pictures because a few of my friends went, and the kit looked amazing. I saw like there was a shark person.
Oh yes. The costume was awesome, but the mad thing about it is it was like a Capcom game where like you look at it and be like, okay, so you're from Street Fighter, you're from Tekken, like you looked at like if you looked at it individually, you'd be like, oh, this is going to look a bit odd. But when they were all together in a group, you're like, actually, this works. Like, it was like Super Smash Bros.
Yeah,
like,
for bad guys.
For bad guys. Waluigi.
The pictures looked absolutely phenomenal. There's again, because I was kind of saying this before we started recording, every time I look at, like, oh, God.
I would do every Eye Larp if I had time and money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's the portents I wanted to go to. Are you doing portents again?
Yeah, we're looking to.
So
we're hoping to get 2 in next year.
Yeah.
But it will all depend on how packed our calendar is because it's just absurd at the moment.
I think our next free week. So we've got.
We have got a weekend off to go on holiday.
Yeah.
And just after Empire. But other than that, our next free weekend where we're not at site doing something is, I think, September. Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then it's all full on from that point until Christmas.
I was going to say because Hoist is in September.
Yeah.
So like it's not like you've got Jesus Christ.
No.
Yeah.
So what is your because you guys are in the marches, right? At
Yes.
Empire.
Yes.
So I've said this before. I think out of character, they're my favorite nation. In character, I thoroughly have a problem.
No, we love that. It's like a sibling rivalry, though, isn't it? Like it's like because Jonny was an year one character as his previous character, and it was only last year that he retired him. So he played him for like
I played Vito
years
for a very long time.
So
were you freeborn?
Freeborn.
Yeah.
I was freeborn, and then we basically started all the Kohan stuff because the Kohan was like literally a paragraph on the wiki, and me and a few people just grabbed hold of it and just took it by the reins. But yeah, it got to the point where he would I still like love playing Vito. If I ever get the opportunity to get his clothes back on and play him, it's great. But he basically became like he was really young when he started. He just got more grizzled and more veterans. Like you just saw his mates die and stuff.
And nothing could kill him.
No.
He killed a kraken. He killed a chimera.
I didn't kill the chimera.
You are Gotrek Gurnason of the Empire world.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where he was just like, well, I'm just going to walk off into the sunset because that's the only ending that my character can reasonably do that is not just going to be a bit crap.
Is he still alive out there?
Yeah, he's still alive. Sorry. Yeah, there was that whole bad luck thing that got put on Caraman, and I joked to some of my freeborn friends that basically they were like walking down a road and would just stumble upon Vito, and they just or like they'll be starting a bar, like trying to rob a bar, and then I'll just be in the back, just like come out, and it's just like I'm the bad luck.
But like when we were in the Brass Coast, we had like a really great relationship with some of our mates in Highguard, and so we could really play that kind of cousins situation of like, we all kind of came from the same. Like, way back when we came from the same civilization and we've sort of split off into 2 very different civilizations. And we knew that we could have that rivalry and that like OC friendship and then IC like ribbing each other over silly things, and that they just have to take it stony faced because that's how, they were playing it. And we were like, And it's lovely having that in Dawn as well now that we're in the marches and just knowing that we can go over to like Castellan or like, some of our mates in other like Dornish houses and be like, And we know it won't turn into an actual fist fight.
Or
no, I do love it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like for some people it's a lot more personal than others. Like sometimes it's like, it's a silly relationship with this. Like sometimes like, you are everything I despise.
Yeah. And why can't it be both?
Do you guys want to tell us a bit more about like because it's households in the marches?
Yes. So we have started the Hogsgrove Coppice, which is basically Terry Pratchett football hooligans.
Yeah. I love that. I love Pratchett so much. It makes me so happy.
Yeah. Right. It's an aspect of the marches that I think a lot of them like kind of rage against because they don't want to be seen as being silly. But it's obviously so much depth within that world, and that's the element of it that we're really trying to like hold on to.
Yeah. So we are all children of the Morn that basically lived their entire lives under Jotun occupation.
Because Mormold was lost by the Empire something like 32 years before current gameplay.
And if we do it on my current, how old I am 35, so I was 3 when we lost the Morn. And so I have been literally in the Morn world through my entire life under Jotun rule.
And so, basically, we're the children of people who decided to stay with the land rather than move out of Mornwald and stay in the Empire. So we're still Marchers, but we weren't Imperials until 2 years ago in game.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we were like Jotun thralls, basically, but by birth, because our parents or grandparents decided not to leave, but instead took the choice and became thralls and worked the land. So it's given us a lot of really interesting, immediate gameplay, I think, because part of the way we've played it is that because we couldn't fight as Imperials, we either had to join the Yagara and fight for the Jotun or not. And so instead of having our household livery, which is the 2-colour sort of surcoats that a lot of Marcher households wear, instead of that being something we wear to battle, that became our football kit. And so pretty much the most aggressive thing that we could do is play football against various other villages. And so all of our various members of the Coppice have our names on the back, like football kit.
That's so good.
Yeah, which is fully unproved. I think there was a few people who kind of pushed back from that and saw us as being a bit not taking it seriously enough. But we were just no, we've followed the logic of this, and this is how our people would have done it,
I feel like Empire's got enough serious characters. You've got to have that characters that have fun and do it a bit differently. That's why I love the Jackdaws. We're a mercenary company that are terrible at everything we do.
I love that.
But I think there's something, to be fair, there's something to be said for the fact that, brevity helps people go through hard times.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're no, life sucks, but we need to have a laugh kind of thing.
Yeah, so we've all got this. It was a wonderful fit. It came out of nowhere, really, this whole idea. But we basically hosted a Maid Marian film in Eversley, and
over lockdown,
and it was me, Kitty, a couple of our other mates. We sat around a fire wearing gambesons, and we're like, "This is comfortable. This is fun. How can we do this at a LARP?" And we all just went, "Archers, Marchers," and then we were talking about how the movies are, the Terry Pratchett vibe, then we started talking about none of us can really do accents, and then we're what accents can most of us do, and we're London ones. So we went Lock, Stock, Snatch, done. So we are literally that kind of Guy Ritchie, Terry Pratchett vibe. And it works well in the Marchers because how everybody is it is still community, and you are looking after your neighbour and stuff. And we are very much helpful with our neighbours until they annoy us, and then it's you may get in a fist fight.
it's rough music.
Yeah, that's it.
It's threshers. Yeah,
it's threshers. It's time to do the bits. I was really excited because when we started, we were just oh yeah, this is gonna be really good, and then. Then my aunt was "I'm your egregore," and I was oh, wicked. And then I was oh, now I have to be really, really on brief because I won't just get a little to the side and taken to one side, being do you want to play the brief properly? It'd be a clip round the back of the head, be play the game properly.
Go on. No, I think that's a really funny concept. And again, I think I would love at some point to roll. I've got too much I want to do in Dawn for now, but I would love to roll into the Marches eventually.
That's providing you don't die in Echoes of Eternity this weekend.
Echoes of Ancients. If I die, I'm going to...
Oh, you go and Echo of the Ancients at the weekend?
Yeah. When this episode comes out, I will have been.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting. I am... Oh, look, it'll be fine.
Yeah,
everyone keeps lyingly saying it'll be fine. So fine. We're all just gonna keep saying.
Make sure you drink. Make sure you eat that onion soup. That's what I'm saying.
What's the possible baddies at that one?
It's all for long, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you read. Oh, so I've got a couple of blood terror filters. I've got friends that can do. I've got a mage who has said I have a stockpile of mana crystals and I will burn every single one of them to keep us alive.
Yeah.
But we've got because I don't know if you read the winds that came out, but there's a bunch of new Valorn that have been discovered that can shatter cast spells, strike down. So they found spell casting Valorn as well.
Wow. It's apparently closer to the heart, isn't it? They get the more stronger they are, or something like that.
Yeah. And the event, I believe, takes place. I don't know again how much you've read, but it takes place just before the Gardens.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of just it's somewhere in that period where we fought that horrible Njornagra horrifying tree monster with heads on it, and then before the Gardens. So it's going to be a time. I'm very excited because I haven't done LARP combat since Flying Laird. And I haven't done like proper sword fighting since Hoist. So I'm excited for that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting.
You'll be fine.
I'll be fine.
I'll laugh if you die.
I'll be so upset. I'll actually cry.
Yeah, because it is sanctioned as well, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So if I die. There's no, I'm very excited. But then again, who knows? Maybe I'll be a marcher come the next event. We'll see how we go.
Yeah.
Marcher.
A marcher.
Mate.
Were you there for the Matilda Fisher nonsense?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
we were in different places around.
We were in different places. We saw all different things. I got in a fight with a militiaman. I stabbed him up.
I'm very upset that no one got Matilda Fisher.
It wasn't going to be possible.
And to be honest, I'm kind of glad that they didn't, because it would have been a bit of a wet fart end, if you see what I mean, to the plot. But I mean, I was part of the group who were around the back of the Senate, and they'd taken off the canvas wall on the back, so we had a kind of extra viewing gallery just from the side. But then the militia was stopping people like climbing through and getting in that way, which was good because it meant that we could see what was going on. Without too much nonsense. But I was with a group who'd made their own signs, and so they were just like silly signs that rhymed various things, and just told her to go back to the Jotun or whatever. But like they were all really good. I can't remember what any of them were, but I had a group of some of the young Bregisland players who were on one side, and then some of my mates on the other, mixture of Dornish and Marches, and I hadn't gone on the secret late night skirmish that happened before.
That was an amazing skirmish.
Where there was this night skirmish to Bregisland, where everybody who went on it had to pretend to be Yagara so they could sneak into a fort. And this has recently been published in the Winds of Fortune. Of like it was a complete success. It was a
full like stealth mission. It was
full
amazing.
Stealth mission led by some of the houses in the who Mornwalders who'd grown up under the Jotun rule, and so they were like, right, these people will know how to pass as Yagara because they were Yagara before they joined the Empire again. And so there was the Hasten Volunteers and some of the others.
It was such a good. So the Hasten Volunteers basically made a column, walked in singing songs and stuff, heading towards the fort
with their old banners and colours from when they were Yagara.
Yep, and then we were fully greened up. Almost like camoed.
I'd done a roaring success because I run a haberdashery shop in the marches, and so I just made a load of hoods out of some scrap fabric and just sold them for like a ring a pop.
Yeah. So, cool. So all of us are wearing as most of us. Some of us have heavy armor on, but we've got these ponchos over us. We're all still looking really marcher. All of us rubbed up our faces by just rubbing it in dirt or putting charcoal on, and then we come in behind them and then split off. So some head towards the woods, some head round to the side, and the Hastings Volunteers walk in, get invited into the main fort, and then we just pincer move and we just start cutting them all down, and we just basically stealth up this entire fort.
That's
and we're dragging
amazing.
the bodies, we're keeping the flags up because there's meant to be reinforcements coming in from the Jotun. The Jotun reinforcements come in, we just ambush them. It was really good.
And then immediately they came back through the Sentinel Gate and then heard that Matilda Fisher had arrived. And so it was exactly the same people who'd been on this night skirmish that were then the mob. That's why it was kind of immediately kicking off. It was so great to see.
There's so many of us all tooled up as well because we all had knives.
Tooled up and also with kind of camo and not their usual gear on as well.
So we
not
looked
the usual recognisable hats.
Yeah.
They were all in disguise, but they were still marchers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was really good. Really good.
So my point of view was from the back, and I had just been messing around while they were all on this night skirmish. And I'd been kicking around our foot the ball with Johnny's little cousin. And so when we arrived at the mob, I still had the football. And so I was just having a lovely time sitting down on that because it was a nice, comfy seat, this semi-deflated football. And then, so this negotiation was going on, and I was chatting to some of the people who were around there, and we were chatting, my mate Esme was playing a drum and just sort of gearing up the crowd in like a sort of I don't know. It was. She's got a great talent for mob chants, but that don't go too far and too aggressive, or like, you know, too, because I think with these things it can be very easy for them to get a bit misogynist just with the terminology that people naturally turn to, and she just deftly dealt with that crowd and led them in sort of anger in a way that was just beautiful to see. And so we had this group of two young Bragus folk sitting by us, and they were like, I've got some throwing knives, do you reckon I could get her? And this lad goes, yeah, go on. And so he throws one throwing knife and it just misses completely. And he throws the other one and it misses completely. And then he goes, I've only got two. And then went, Mr. Militiaman. And this like Wintermark like looked over to us and he was like, can I have my knives back? And he did. He brought them back to us. Like, it was just bloody stupid. But fair dues. It was a really great stand-up. Incredible. And then like three of them jumped over the wall inside and tried to make a break for
it all kicked off outside. There was militia fighting marchers. It was great.
It was a really good game, yeah.
Well, I went to the Portaloo and there's like no mob out there. I come out the Portaloo. What the fuck's going on? Why is there an angry mob? I don't have a sword. I feel threatened.
I mean, what was really good as well afterwards is that the NPC, the crew member who was playing Matilda Fisher, posted in the Motchers Facebook group and said, thank you. I didn't feel unsafe at all at any point. Like, you guys did a great job of creating that atmosphere without actually making me feel unsafe as a person. So I think that's definitely something to be commended, kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really good. I think we've probably coming to probably a good time to stop.
I think this might be our longest.
This might be our longest episode.
Oh, I apologize.
No, I want to keep going, but it was probably coming towards my bedtime. Is there anything you guys wanted to shout out before we wrap up? Is there any games you wanted to promote? Anything new you want to shout about?
We've got a new Feast Your Eyes game, which is being run by our friend Harry alongside us, who's he's a Dornishman, who's Hugh Dominos, I believe you may know him.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So he is running a Sharp LARP or Schlarp.
Called, he told us about this, and I really want to go. Mate, it sounds so cool.
I think it's going to be a good one. Yeah, it's going to be called The Forlorn Hope, and it's set in 1813 in the Peninsular War. And so it's the first game that we've written that has a kind of gender divide, which is something we've been like discussing for a while, like as a possibility. Basically, we wanted to have civilian game, like in Sharp, where sometimes the people who like save the day are spies or like the various ladies who happen to be in the camp. But we didn't want it to just be like everybody's on an even playing field here, and anybody can get involved in that. It's kind of starting at a disadvantage, but having the tools to make that an advantage was kind of the idea.
As I understand it as well, it's the character's gender, not your own, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have, So
as a female player, I could decide to play a red coat or a rifleman in a green jacket, and I would be using he/him pronouns for the event. I could play a Spanish guerrilla, and anything goes. So the three genders are man, red coat, lady, and Spanish guerrilla, basically. In this game, but like it's we're trying to make it as inclusive as possible, but also kind of play with these themes that are very much part of that setting without it being something that's like not fun to play. And so we kind of really worked as hard as we can on that kind of design to make it as full of world as we can and as close to the TV show as we can, while also having the various options and it not just be a miserable experience if you wanted to play a lady or a civilian of any gender.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I think we'd be going if we had the budget all the time.
For sure. May 26th to 28th this year, yeah. Is the Forlorn Hope.
Maybe next year.
Thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for making Eye Larp as amazing as it is.
It's been absolutely brilliant. I've loved every moment so far.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it is an absolute pleasure to run things for the community of Eversley.
Yeah.
And for new people and for the old lot as well.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, and we'll see you. Well, I guess I'll probably see you at Empire.
Yep. Yeah. E1. Yeah.
And definitely see you. I think my next Eye Larp is we're both going to Hoist of Colours.
Nice.
So we'll see you then.
Fabulous.
So yeah, thank you very much, guys, and thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye, friend.
Awesome.
Bye.